Again, my name is Andy Belval. I'm with Keystone Technologies. Let's get to the agenda here real quick. All right, so today we're going to talk about four primary areas. We're going to talk about the current state of digital solutions. We're going to talk about essential cloud technologies for the C-suite. We're also going to hit on a couple of real life case studies where it's achievable outcomes and what we're able to accomplish by utilizing the approach that Keystone Technologies and Sublimation Health have teamed together to deliver to the marketplace. And then finally, we'll walk through aspects of charting your cloud journey. At our core, Keystone Technologies and Sublimation Health view ourselves actually as healthcare companies rather than technology companies. We simply believe that technology provides us the greatest opportunity right now to enhance patient care. Or, as Jeremy likes to say, we're here to save lives, not drives. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy.
I love that one, and we got little stickers for you, that slogan, so please feel free to take them. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Kevin. The center here goes a long way into what we believe when we go meet with our clients. It's almost a cheesy slide type of obvious statement, but understanding why you're going to cloud and understanding why AWS is the right place to go and why we're the partners to do it with you. So aside from the, I'm going to save $200 million, which is really cool, and we could help you do that, getting a North Star for your organization around clinical efficiencies, staff efficiencies, financial efficiencies, accessibility to the environments. What is most important to you? Starting new, greenfield, data security and compliance, ransomware resiliency goes together with that. For us, in our first journey, the consistent operating environment was ultimately what drove everything. Why is the EHR going to be up in 30 seconds, but pharmacy is going to take 6 hours and nutrition management is going to be 16 hours later, right? So having that consistency and resiliency was most important to us. Scalability, that's a given. How important that is to you, that's what we've got to decide together to begin with. Back to you.
All right, so we're going to talk about two real-life case studies executed by Keystone and by Sublimation. The first is the Orthopedic Institute of Western Kentucky. The Orthopedic Institute of Western Kentucky is a 20-plus private practice physician group in Paducah. They had a set of aging on-premise infrastructure that was managing or was housing an otherwise effectively implemented next-gen EHR platform, as well as their merged PACS solution. Ultimately, the aging on-premise infrastructure was becoming completely unreliable and extremely costly to maintain. So the Orthopedic Institute of Western Kentucky came to Keystone and asked us to do an assessment to determine cloud readiness for both their next-gen platform and for their PACS platform. After completing that analysis, it was determined that it would make more sense to actually move the entire ecosystem, all of their solutions, into the cloud in one project. And we'll talk about the outcomes of that project in a couple minutes. Jeremy?
So Sublimation Health was born from the success of writing the book of Epic Zero On-Premises Footprint in AWS, including the third-party ecosystem. And we could not have done it without master architect over here, Kevin Vuong, lifesaver. Went through a lot of pain together, but my team and I have a history of being on that edge and trying to do a lot of firsts, and we took a long time to figure out who our partner was. AWS sat down with us and gave us back the vision that we would give the other providers when we were on the search for this. And we knew at that moment that this is the team that we were going to do it with. Not to mention they were at least 14 months ahead of anybody else in compute and processing power. And that's the first thing. If the partner you're using isn't going to be able to support your workloads, then they're off the list. So it was ultimately important to us to actually do it ourselves as well, because it hadn't been done. When you go to Epic, they're very prescriptive on the server architecture, but in terms of running those commands, building out the resiliency, translating that to cloud, that's the book that we wrote together. We did it in a short 14 months, and we'll go into it a little more in depth on the following slides. Andy, back to you.
All right, so with the Orthopedic Institute of Western Kentucky, they gave us an extremely aggressive timeline for this move. There was twofold reason for that. The first was the desire to stop utilizing their soon-to-be end-of-life on-premise hardware and architecture. The second was a looming software upgrade on their PACS environment that they wanted to desperately avoid. So we went in and migrated all of their systems from on-premise into the AWS cloud. We rebuilt them, and then we migrated them so that they would be cloud ready and completely enabled. We found some really amazing things that came out of that. The first was they saw a 50% improvement on the performance of their next-gen EHR platform, both field to field and screen to screen. They discovered that the RCM reports that they were typically taking about 65 minutes to run were running in under 7 minutes. They were blown away by the overall experience that they had as it related to their next-gen environment. Also included that when we moved the merge pack solution over, that solution also performed better inside of AWS than it did even in their on-premise infrastructure. And we no longer had to cache images on desktops. We could simply use the AWS cloud environment. So it created massive operating cost savings. It created huge opportunities for enhanced patient care. It significantly increased the amount of time the clinicians could spend with their patients rather than waiting on the performance of their EMR and delays in getting access to imaging. Jeremy?
So, as we mentioned earlier, our ultimate guiding star was to have a consistency in resiliency as well as cost savings to the entire environment. So, the title of this session here, the 360-degree ecosystem, I will dive into it in depth later on, but we had that mindset from day one where we all agreed what was our North Star, that it was cloud or bust. But it wasn't just Epic at the center. It was 40 mission critical functions, not necessarily the software suites, but functions from nutrition and food management to pharmacy to epilepsy monitoring, EKGs, that we've developed over 20 years in the industry and going through disasters that you've all gone through of outages where we're in a war room. Pharmacies like we have to be up before patient transport, and patient transport says, well, we better be up before nutrition management. And they turn around to the IT director, and the IT director says, I have no idea what servers are for what. We're just trying to bring everything up right now. So our aim was to have this entire ecosystem out there, not just Epic. So 14 months for never having been done before and getting documentation that are VMware commands, and screwing up a lot along the way. It's a pretty impressive number. So in that 14 months, Tufts was Wellforce at that time at the beginning of it, a burgeoning system out in Boston, 3 main hospitals, hundreds of clinics, at least 6 EHRs. Those were the 6 that we could find. There was stuff everywhere. We went with 42 applications at go live, including the full end-to-end Epic stack. Again, 0 on-premises footprint. We follow the Epic model all the way through. We found that their prescriptive methodology for implementation translated perfectly to all those other clinical applications that we had to bring over. Avoided any double dipping in terms of the vendor, in terms of our analyst time, in terms of our leadership's attention to it. Never again will you have that level of attention that you do during an Epic implementation or migration. So to date, we're up near almost 200 applications that are now moved. We're live about 2 years. The big stat that I fight my guys on every day, that I don't believe them, that they found another 10,000 here and $50,000 there. And it's very important for the folks on video because I'm horrible with slides. Those numbers are switched. And it's important because from the day that we went live, we continue to increase our usage and consumption of AWS services by 40%. So from the day we went live, we grew that environment by 40%. At the same time, the bill 1 year later was 20% lower than on that first day. So in a consumption environment, that's a 60% efficiency, which blew our minds and was well above and beyond the 30% or $3 million we calculated in savings of not going on traditional infrastructure or with the next cheapest host. So we're pretty proud of that, and that's what has us here today, and that's what created Sublimation Health, because we turned around and we said, we've got a special way of doing this. The guidance of Kevin, the guidance of AWS to make us into cloud people was just bar none. Back to you, Andy.
So collectively now, Keystone Technologies and Sublimation Health has teamed up to be able to provide any answer and any solution for any hospital or health system or large private practice physician group when they are looking to put their EHR platform and all of their entire ecosystem into the cloud. As we're looking at EHR data, right? The first thing we're going to focus on is what are we going to do with all that legacy data? What are we going to do with those 6 EHRs, at least the ones that we found, right? What are we going to do with that legacy data if we're not going to do that complete conversion into our new Epic instance? So we have a lightweight legacy data archival solution that allows you to cost effectively still have read-only access to that and keep all of those systems separate from your Epic instance so that you can enhance your overall patient care. I'm going to let Kevin talk a little bit about EHR hosting on AWS.
All right. So in terms of EHR hosting, sort of what Jeremy said earlier, reliability and performance is by far the first order of business. As of today, we just released a blog article about 2-3 weeks ago about how we can host about 96% of Epic customers today. And then in terms of active management and optimization, we utilize services such as CloudWatch, Systems Manager, and EventBridge to monitor and manage the Tufts Medicine's environment. And in terms of cost optimizations, we use a free tool called Cost Optimizer within AWS to actually look at potential optimizations to potentially right-size environments that have been brought over from a third-party perspective. Jeremy?
Thanks, Kevin. And I think it's very important to highlight the tools that Kevin is talking about are native and they're built in. So it was really important to us too, because we wanted to be all in. We were teaching people that came from traditional infrastructure, that were ECSAs, that were Citrix and VMware administrators, but in healthcare, in the context of healthcare and those applications. So in order to help them transition and also give them a new career path so that they're coming along in this, we went all in on the core native services, so everything was well integrated. There are all sorts of abstraction tools out there and stuff, but we decided to go core AWS, and that has just helped us improve the overall savings and value of the entire project. Back to why do the whole ecosystem? So we didn't get into this to be managing servers and moving servers and counting, RAM and CPUs. I mean, that's not the sexy part of the job. We really wanted to get our environments modernized. We wanted to get out of the traditional management of legacy infrastructure, and more importantly, the technical debt that's been decades in the making, to be able to free up our ninjas and our geniuses to go actually create solutions that were solving healthcare problems. Connecting mothers to their babies in the ICU, connecting the families to the mothers, making sure that you don't sit there for 8 hours and you saw the wrong doctor. I mean, those are solutions that our IT professionals in healthcare should be working on rather than worrying that you're going to run out of space. So particularly at Tufts, it democratized innovation. All of these folks that were traditional green screen DBAs, all of a sudden now they're thinking, wait a second, let me figure out how to grow and shrink volumes in Linux. That's not a straight up thing, right? How do I approach this? How do I make sure we never run out of space? Because that was my directive. I never want to see us run out of space, never want to see us run out of memory. I think the first thing that Kevin was scared to tell me was we ran out of space and we ran out of memory first day, but then we figured it out. But then we're able to go and all the automations, when I say automation, to be able to pretty much make it one touch, set it and forget it until you have to go and address something, that allowed us to go and do things like build a multi-language omni-channel app that's in the context of the patient's condition. So we use Epic Core MyChart, but we build tools on top of it. We turbocharge that stuff. We apply direct AWS AI and ML native services, again, services that are in there that sit on top of our applications. We were going to go and put a whole Avaya call center infrastructure in. We took a look at Amazon's Connect, and that actually completely integrated into our app, into context, from chat to voice to I'm connecting you to the right nurse for your right condition, all the way through the stack. And that was all enabled by actually being on AWS. Here's one of our favorite charts. I'm not going to go too much in depth with it, but at Sublimation Health, we are we're adamantly, almost annoyingly specific about the biggest value you're going to get out of cloud is getting out as much as you can in there. Your bigger environments, like your EHRs, there's a significant savings there. But they are very prescriptive and very demanding on what you can and cannot do to that environment for good reason. They don't want their customers to fail. Epic will not let you fail. So they're going to insert themselves and make sure you're doing things to their prescribed methodology, and they're going to follow you along the way. It's the rest of that ecosystem where 100% of those vendors that we call every day, this is my job, calling the vendor, absolutely no. You cannot go on AWS, you can't go on cloud, we're not ready. Then the second question I ask is, well, do you want to get to cloud? And about 100% of the time is like, yes, at some point. So what we have done is developed our own, what we like to call collaboratory, to bring these vendors in, incentivize them to eventually get to a cloud-ready implementation for their product. So for the next customer and the next and the next, and hopefully you guys are the next that want to do any of these that have a template, all you have to do is go in there and punch a bunch. Boom. Configuration ready environment, ready to go. However, it does take putting in a whole lot of management, a lot of programs, financial operations, working with those vendors to make sure that you show them, hey, it's okay. It's okay if we take away a CPU at 2 in the morning and put it back at 2 in the afternoon. And this graph here shows that ultimate 40% increase in consumption, 20% decrease in price, but it's not something you're going to see from your everyday folks out there that are in this business right now, because it's very fun to show $100 million savings at the end of 10 years, but it's not as pretty to show all the middle stuff. But we have the proven numbers. Now it's been operating for over 2 years, if you consider the build environments that have been up. And we always say we like to open the books. Anybody that wants to connect to us, we'll go right into the console and show you what's going on from the day we went live to where we are today. And 100% of the time, they've come down. And we have finally realized, anybody who's gone for any computer science or IT, where the commoditization, the performance goes up and the cost should come down. That never happened. When did you sit with any of the big hardware providers in 3 years and they come and it got cheaper? Never. Now, we were presented at reInvent on the stage. We increased our density on our front end servers by 60%. Yet the price came down by a massive percentage point. So we are finally there now, and it's all enabled by the work that these guys do, and they consistently improve upon that, and they consistently drop those prices. Andy?
All right, so finally, we want to talk about the three-step process that we have put together collectively to help you chart your cloud journey. So let's hit that next slide. So it's going to begin like we talked about earlier with the Orthopedic Institute of Western Kentucky opportunity and what they did at Tufts. We're going to do cloud discovery, right? We're going to do analysis. We're going to figure out what business and technology foundations need to be involved in this. We're going to understand what your goals are, and we're going to incorporate that and what needs to be built. It's not just about infrastructure, right? It's about the operations of the hospital and health system as well. From there, we will rebuild and migrate to optimize what we can accomplish inside of AWS, right? And it is going to be AWS native. It is going to be built and designed to be the most effective it can possibly be inside of the AWS environment. And then finally, we're going to modernize and optimize. And that is where you're going to see continued increased performance and continued cost reduction overall. It is to me, it's the bedrock of why AWS, right? Being able to put this three-step process in place allows you to do what you're supposed to do, which is focus on enhancing patient care and develop solutions rather than worrying about how you're going to provide cost savings or how you're going to make sure that infrastructure is working and operational.